Well, isn't that some foreshadowing? Generic Control in the Doc Goes Moo here, back with another Game Theory FNAF video, and today we're doing FNAF Thanks for the Memories, which I believe was MatPat's final Game Theory video talking about FNAF. I actually just reacted to all the endings to his final theory video. That video will go live tomorrow. Patrons will get it today. $3 a month to get you all my reaction video a day early. They got this video a day early as well. But I've been going through the Minecraft theories, but also with MatPat retiring his final videos, I've been kind of like taking a little break from those, but I've been doing the Minecraft theories. I went through all of the Game Theory FNAF videos, and I will continue those as those come out. You took a reaction to the last one, which I believe was the film theory. I know how the movie trilogy ends. I'll leave my reaction to that right up there. Also, link down below in the description, and it'll be in a place on my channel with all my other Five Nights at Freddy theory reactions going in chronological order. I do read all your comments, so leave some down below. A lot of people tell me check out this video. I was absolutely going to, but last week's video, his final theory, I had to do that. It literally dropped like while I was recording videos. I'm like, oh well, that's just perfect timing. It is meant to be. But I'm excited to watch this and see what it's going to be about. I don't know if he's going to be giving theories or he's just going to be like recapping the story and how long he's been on this journey and what he's thought process. I'm not really sure, but let's go ahead and jump on into it. All right.
Loyal theorists, this is it. This will be my final FNAF theory. And
so it actually is a theory.
I mean it.
But then he met with Scott Cawthon, which is crazy. Oh, we have a little different of an intro here. Okay. Oh no, it's...
The end is nearly at hand. The pieces are in place for you. You missed it last week. Look for
What?
the green.
What do you...
Remember everything I taught you. Remember, dates are important. Remember the... Hurry.
FNAF 87 or the Bite of 87? What was that, an Easter egg for like finding
Hello,
the
Internet.
endings?
Welcome to Game Theory, the show that, by my count, has had no less than 10 final FNAF theories. At this point, it's practically become its own meme. But this
yeah,
time,
the
it's
final
like,
theory,
after
the final
66
theory, the final
theories,
theory.
3 live talkbacks and 1 bangin' remix.
Exotic bush.
Oh,
Make
I was
that
in
2
the
bangin'
ending.
remixes.
Oh, yeah, Music Man.
Today, I end my coverage of Five Nights at Freddy's. After this, there's only one final game theory.
And it's
then
the final
curtain
one.
Closes on my time as host, and Tom will have to step into the spotlight. Hope you're ready for the challenge there, Tom. Tom?
Toy Bunny, Easter Bunny, Chocolate Bunny, Melted Chocolate Bunny, Withered Bunny, Blackheart Bunny, Rockstar Bunny, Glamrock Bunny, Sunken Toy Bunny, Bonbon, Just Bon, System Error Bunny, Nightmare Bunny.
Yeah,
Hold on.
good luck.
How many toes does he have?
2, no, 3,
Uh,
5?
Again.
What?
The first step of FNAF theorizing. Slowly losing your mind.
Slowly?
He's gonna do just fine. You know,
Yeah.
I did consider making my final theory about FNAF, but I actually have something really special planned for that one. So special,
What do you mean?
in fact, that we're gonna be doing a premiere for it on this channel next Saturday, March 9th at 2 p.m.
Which
Eastern,
was-
11 a.m. Pacific. We're gonna have some fun. You guys will be able to chat with me live as that video releases. And who knows? There
What
might
video
even be
was
some
that?
secrets to find. And most importantly of all, I get to say my final goodbye and thank you to all of you for the last 13 years. So that's
So is
next
this
week,
seriously,
March 9th
like,
at 2 p.m.
never gonna be
Eastern, 11
another
a.m.
video?
Pacific. Make sure you're subscribed.
Like, he's
so
gonna
you're
be on
notified
GT
when that
Live
goes
and stuff
live.
like
Speaking
that,
of March
but
9th, just a quick reminder that that's also the
not
final day
gonna
of
be on
sales for
camera.
my YouTubes. Once
Oh,
I retire
I
as
didn't know he
host
had
on the 9th of
YouTubes.
March,
What?
it too will retire and be gone
Oh, no.
forever. So
I
if
missed
you
that.
do want this little piece of game theory history, or you know, your own little psychic friend Fredbear, head on over
I don't know
to
if I want one of those in my
youtubes.com or
house.
click the link in the description to grab your MatPat figurine and FNAF pins before they're nothing but a distant memory. Kind of like Dream
Pretty
Theory.
cool.
But enough housekeeping, it's time to talk about FNAF. And let me tell you, I've spent a long time thinking about this one. How do you
His
end a
whole-
series like
him
this?
stepping
Should I just do
away
a normal theory
was
about
like-
some minute detail? Doesn't really feel final, you know?
Yeah.
Plus, I'd probably end up calling someone a robot, and then a bunch of people would get mad at me
And
again.
he
Should
doesn't
I redo
want that.
the ultimate FNAF timeline as one final
Which was
here's
really
the
good,
lore?
but-
That would certainly be big, but it also doesn't feel like that much was
Final.
changed post-Ruin and
Well,
Help
that
Wanted
too.
2 from what we did at the end of last year. So I didn't really want to be redundant either. You can see the struggle that I was facing, right? This
He
episode
found the
is a big
perfect
deal.
way
It
to,
is
like,
literally the end
step
of my
away,
legacy with
like,
FNAF. And you see,
all
that's
the
when
videos
you
he
hit
did
legacy. Typically,
were so
FNAF
well
theories are
done.
born out of the small details. But what if I took a step back and looked at the big picture? What if instead of counting animatronic toes or dead kids,
Age
I took
36?
a meta approach and just looked at the entire legacy of FNAF? I'm sure we're all familiar with the butterfly effect, right? The idea that a butterfly flapping its wings could cause the smallest of changes in the air, which could potentially lead to a tornado forming.
I thought it was
Well,
a
the term
hurricane.
actually comes from the research of meteorologist Edward Lorenz, who, back in 1963, decided to round some some numbers in his data. He condensed one variable from 0.506127 to just 0.506.
And
yet
it
that
made a
tiny
massive
change right there
difference.
completely threw off his computer's weather models, transforming sunny skies into violent storms, hence the whole tornado thing. This realization that small changes in data could yield such tremendous
it's also
results
over the
threw off
time
science's entire
of
understanding
things.
of nature. Before Lorenz, people thought that the universe could ultimately be predicted. Sir Isaac Newton back in 1687 famously believed in the clockwork universe, the idea that the parts of the universe worked like a machine, and that eventually, if you understood how the parts worked, you could predict practically anything. French mathematician Pierre-Simon Laplace actually said basically the same thing. Eventually, we would get to a place where nothing would be uncertain. And yet, Lorenz showed us that one small change, one minor mistake or estimate or imprecise measurement in a complex system could have a domino effect at a massive scale, resulting in changes that you would never see coming. For example, in 1928, Alexander Fleming discovered that there was mold in his petri dish, but rather than just throwing it away or cleaning it up, he decided to study it, which then led to the discovery of penicillin, a life-saving antibiotic that could be used to treat meningitis, pneumonia, gonorrhea, syphilis, blood poisoning, and many others. Or if you want another example, you have the explosion of hip-hop music largely owing its origins to a random lightning strike in New York City. In 1977, a bolt of lightning put the city of New York into a 25-hour blackout. So what do you do for all that time that you're stuck in the dark? You loot and pillage, baby.
Wait, really?
New Yorkers started to ransack storefronts, including music shops full of instruments and supplies. Suddenly, expensive DJ equipment was in the hands of young aspiring musicians eager to experiment.
There's places like that in the country.
It was a new genre of music just hitting the local scene, and thus hip-hop was truly able to thrive. History is full of these sorts of stories, from the foundations of medicine and music to even stuff as extreme as the origins of both World War I and II. Why do I bring all this serious stuff up in relation to Spooky Bear Game? Because
Spooky Bear Game,
one of those rounded variables. One decision by Scott Cawthon reshaped gaming.
That's not what he looks like anymore.
The entire entertainment world as we know it, and that's not an exaggeration for effect. One man's decision to not give up, to try
to make
again
one last
face
game.
Rejection and adversity, literally shifted billions of dollars of the economy and affected hundreds of millions of lives in ways that are incalculable. And that is what I wanted to call attention to in my final FNAF theory. FNAF shows us that by not giving up, one person can have a profound effect on the course of history itself. I feel like the origin story of FNAF.
I wonder if this was recorded before or after he met with Scott.
Here, despite hitting it big with FNAF in 2014, its creator Scott Cawthon had been making games at that point for 20 years, since 1994. And yet, even in those earliest days, you can tell that Scott had a fascination with creepy robots, working their designs into projects like the sci-fi Ifer Moon and the religious Pilgrim's Progress. Even this incredibly rudimentary RPG, Legacy of Flan, has a final boss that has what looks to be the first appearance of what would eventually evolve into the Mangle. But despite producing a lot of games, none really ever caught the public eye.
How long did it take him to make some of these?
Chipper & Sons Lumber Company, where initial reviews, what few there were
Are these games, can you still get a hold of them?
It was the reaction to James Stephanie Sterling that would change the course of Cawthon's career forever. Thank God for her.
It's just all over the place, and that thing looks like it's gonna kill your children. I imagine the phrase, "kill me," is stated over and over
they did videos on it, so it must have been known.
Oh, they're robot beavers.
It wasn't his job, though. It was like a hobby.
He's the only living thing in this world.
This repeated criticism, plus the lack of financial stability, brought Scott down to his lowest. Ready to quit games, he decided to try one final time and actually make a spooky game leveled at him time and time again: the creepy robotic animations. And thus, Five Nights at Freddy's.
He made the entire game himself, didn't he? Like, he made the models and animations and the code and everything,
to make a final game instead of just giving up. Now, let's see how it all maps out from there. Let's start with just the obvious downstream effects of this. That one game, over the course of the last decade, has spun off into 12, which honestly, I've never truly sat down and processed. But believe it or not, there are 12 of these things, depending on how you count them. The entire franchise has sold 9.9 million copies on Steam,
the exact amount of views
has an estimated
that MatPat's final theory has right now.
And that's 9.9 is what it says. And mobile ports, or the number of microtransactions for FNAF AR, which itself had over 40 million downloads. It's also worth pointing out that of the $94 million, 55 million of that was just from Steam sales of Security Breach. That was actually at full price as opposed to all the others, which were either free or a couple bucks. And while the first 4 FNAF games were entirely a one-man job, the rest have included voice actors, composers, entirely separate game studios like Steel Wool and Illumix. Even to this
Scott's
day,
doing well for himself.
Continue with studios like Megacat, who up until now have been focused on releasing games on retro consoles, very niche market, but that made them perfect to create the retro retro-style pixelated FNAF game Into the Pit releasing later this year.
What?
By pairing up with these smaller companies that aren't insanely well known, Scott's not only been able to make bigger, better games,
but he's
also
been able to build
use
them
his
up.
single game's success to put millions of eyeballs and millions of dollars into each of these
And
companies. As a
that
result of their
employ
work with
hundreds
FNAF,
of people.
Ultimate started working with Disney on features found throughout the parks. And if Steel Wool ever do release a game outside of FNAF in the future, you can bet that it's going to have itself a fan base attached to it because people now know about them, and they're going to want to see what other work they can do. So that's on the game side, or at least it's on the official game side.
Yeah,
but
and then you have the fan games, because he did the
he
had that whole thing where
he
like
this one
had like create like custom games or something like that.
Game designers unlike any game that's ever really come
like
before.
he started
cutting their teeth
what was
on
it
a
called?
genre that exploded in the mid-2010s, the FNAF fan game. Five Nights at Treasure Island, Five Nights at Wario's, Pop Goes, The Joy of Creation, Those Nights at Rachel's, Afton Build, Glitched Attraction, Bloody Nights Juniors, Day Shift at Freddy's.
Just thank.
What is this game? I could go on and on and on for days. Some of these were just for the memes, others were more serious attempts at making games inspired by FNAF, and many of them were just taking the world that Scott had created and broadening it outward into the game that they wanted to see made. If you go onto Game Jolt, you'll find thousands of fan games, and I do mean thousands. If you search just for FNAF and select games, you're presented with 36 games per page and 277 pages available. That is 9,961
okay,
games
some of them
that are
might
tagged
just have
using
FNAF in the
sitting there
tags
thinking,
for popularity.
the math there doesn't add up. You're right, good noticing. That's because I had to remove 11 of Scott's own games that were posted on that list. Though, I'm pretty sure that there are some out there who'd like to pretend that FNAF World was a fan game. Each and every
I would
one
play
of those
FNAF World.
10,000 fan games represents a budding game designer, sometimes several. And while yeah, many of those creators are likely never going to pursue game design full-time, there are some who will, either independently or as part of a bigger studio, going on to have their shot at creating their own mega franchise.
And they probably learned
shot to
something from
transform
the
industry.
FNAF
And already
games
you can
are
see
making
that some
it.
of these devs are finding success, to the point where many of them have created multiple different games at this point, turning their fan projects into full-on franchises of their own. And all of this is without even mentioning the Fanverse initiative, where Scott invested money and resources into some of the most promising projects to help those fledgling businesses grow. Now, the success of that one is up for debate for various reasons, but the point ultimately stands. Five Nights at Freddy's has been directly and indirectly involved in the rise of a new generation of game developers. Developers that, just now, 10 years later, we're only starting to see get to a point
in a world
where
where games are really just sequels and sequels and there's no original ideas anymore.
Seen a massive shift coming off the heels of FNAF.
Especially when it comes to games and movies.
If you look at any top 10 list about horror games, it would have been filled with games like Outlast, PT, Amnesia, games that leaned hard into psychological horror.
Streamed Outlast. It was terrifying.
FNAF, though, was different. While other horror games used the classic horror trope of not knowing what the monster looked like, relying on the audience's mind to fill in the blanks of what might be lurking in the shadows, FNAF put the monsters front and center, allowing them to be the star of the show like we see in movies like Friday the 13th and Halloween. This allowed FNAF games to be much more thumbnail friendly.
118 million views.
Spooky dark hallways or overcomplicated monster designs that dominated the horror space in the past. Mix in the more family-friendly scares of
also
Freddy
haven't
Gang,
played
and you've
Amnesia.
got yourself a brand new subgenre of content, Mascot horror, as dubbed by YouTuber John Wolf. This genre took old nostalgic locations and filled them with brightly colored killers brought to life
that
through
look
some
friendly,
weird experiment or trauma.
and then in the dark they're
Poppy
scary.
Playtime, Rainbow Friends, My Friendly
Not
Neighborhood,
familiar with
Hello
those.
Neighbor, Baldi's Basics, Choo Choo Charles, Amanda the Adventure, and of course,
Not familiar with any of
Martin
them.
the Band Band.
None of
That's
them.
not even dipping into the hundreds of lesser-known titles like Joyville. It was FNAF who
Those
paved
look
the
very
way
joyful.
for all of these games. Poppy sold 2 million copies in 2 years. Bendy has made over $30 million just off of its 2 major installments. Hello Neighbor is a thing that continues to exist. And while people complain about oversaturation in the market at this point, there is no denying that the formula has worked extremely well for the better part of the last 10 years. But maybe you're sick of games. You want to read a book? Well, I hope you're excited to read the 7 Hello Neighbor books, 5 Bendy books, or the Poppy Playtime Employee Handbook that's coming out later this year. Mascot horror franchises now also line the shelves of your local Barnes & Noble. Why? Because FNAF
Scott
did
really
it first.
started
Scholastic
something.
had done some video game book publishing in the past, mostly guidebooks and
Or
activity
maybe
books,
he
but
didn't.
after
Maybe he
the
didn't
success of the
invent
FNAF
mascot
trilogy,
horror.
They began to publish
But he
other
definitely
video game books like
elevated it
Assassin's
to the
Creed
limelight.
Last Descendants, World of Warcraft Traveler. This led them to launch an entirely separate wing to their business, AFK, the video game specific book department. It's
Oh, that's
these
actually a
guys who are
great
publishing
name for
all
it.
the books that Tom is now going to have to read. No, it's impossible to know for certain that FNAF was the reason for all this, but given it was often shown at the top of articles for this new publishing arm at launch and has sold 9 million books to date, with an average book price being about $10, that is $90 million infused into the historically struggling print publishing business. It's no wonder the first 6 rows of their website are dedicated to FNAF. But without AFK, it's easy to imagine a world where these other Mascot horror games
would
didn't
exist.
get that chance.
They wouldn't
and
get
all those
signed
writers
up on
who've now been
or
able to make a
greenlit.
living off of these franchises wouldn't be recognized like they are. I mean, take for
And
instance,
people would be
Andrea
reading
Wagner,
less.
who wrote the vast majority of Fazbear Frights and Tales from the Pizzaplex stories. She's now getting DM'd by fans asking for lore clarifications. Something I'm sure she never anticipated while working on her past writing projects, like her dog how-to book, Dog Parenting, or Alternate Beauty, the story of a big girl with big dreams. Her words, not mine. The same thing is now happening with another struggling industry, movies. After spending 8
Are
years
movies
in
really
production
struggling
hell,
that much?
losing directors, struggling with studios, and trying to nail down a script, Blumhouse eventually took the chance on FNAF, making the movie on a $20 million budget and earning back nearly $300
In the box
million.
office.
If you don't think Hollywood has taken strong notice of that when they are struggling to get butts in seats, you are wrong. You think it's a coincidence that 2
And they
months
did
after
it
FNAF's
right.
release, Bendy announced his big screen debut?
Wait,
And
they're
while
making a
Poppy
Bendy
Playtime
movie?
was already in the works with Studio 71, I can
And a
almost
Poppy Playtime
guarantee
movie? What?
conversations with studios around it have shifted
Do I
in
need
the
to do
aftermath of FNAF. And who knows
reactions
what
to
other
the
Mascot
theories of
horror
those?
games might end up with movies down the line. And not only
I
is
don't
it
like
getting
scary
indie
games.
game
I
movies
really don't.
greenlit, it's also reshaping film studio priorities. As they continue to fumble around in the dark, struggling to find ways to compete with online content, I've literally had conversations with people in the film space about how they're trying to tap into that FNAF audience, that online community. The success of this one film will be shaping the types of movies that get made and how they
Producer
look
of
moving
Megan,
forward.
which
I
is a
guarantee.
wild
But while
thing.
movie releases mean big bucks for big studios, the economic ramifications go way beyond just extra cash in the pocket of Jason Blum. The FNAF movie was shot in New Orleans, which, since Hurricane Katrina, has been an economically depressed part of the country. Now, I didn't
yeah,
know this
it's
at the time, but
rough.
from speaking to local actors and business owners while I was down there filming last year, I learned that New Orleans actually has a long history in film production.
Yeah.
When the state government of Louisiana first introduced tax breaks for film productions back in 2002, over 1,000 projects happened down there in the span of 7 years. Those productions created jobs, hired locals,
Oh,
and
yeah.
brought millions of dollars back into the city. However, pre-COVID, those incentives were rolled back, and productions
Oh.
have now started to move to other places
Atlanta.
like Georgia. That's why so
Yeah.
many of the local actors
Atlanta, I
and business
think,
owners I spoke with while down there
like
were
Wilmington,
eager to
North
see
Carolina?
the FNAF movie in town. By shooting in New Orleans, a huge chunk of that $20 million budget was going to accommodations, drivers, caterers, local talent, location rentals, equipment, and other general resources that help local businesses thrive, and maybe start a domino effect to get other movies back in the region. Regardless of all of that, the point is that this one decision to try one final game, it's grown beyond
Which
itself.
I've always
It's no
said,
longer about just
you
making its
give
own
up before you
franchise full of
actually
games.
give up.
It's spread to all corners of the
He
video
gave up
industry,
before he
and to
said
so many other IPs
it was his
and
last
creators,
video,
spawning a
or
wave of
last
new
game.
franchises and giving life to
When
so
you say
many
it's your
careers
last
that
game,
otherwise might not have
you
had a
gave up
chance.
already.
But speaking of careers, there's one final area that's
Well, he
also
did it
needing
anyway,
to be addressed.
and
An
it
area
without
that has
work.
been so affected by FNAF, it's crazy to not talk about. And that, of course, is here on YouTube. FNAF has done a lot of numbers for a lot of industries, but its effect on the YouTube landscape
I don't know
is
how
still
you can count the
visible to
views
this
here.
day, and in a much more obvious way. When FNAF first launched, it was just one of many games that YouTubers started playing because spooky games got big views. This game gave rise to some of the biggest names on the platform, names that are still
Markiplier.
going strong today. Let's players like Corey X Kenshin and Markiplier, who'd been on YouTube
I'm not
for a
very
couple
familiar
years,
with
but saw
Corey.
their careers accelerate in
Not very
parallel
familiar with
alongside the
Markiplier
FNAF
either,
releases.
honestly.
You also had a massive surge in nerdcore musical artists like the Living
There
Tombstone,
is
whose FNAF
actually
song was at 1 million
Broccoli
views in a
Bin,
couple of weeks, whereas most
one of my
other songs that were
patrons,
released would have a few hundred
made a
thousand views
playlist
months
for
after release. And
FNAF,
machinima creators started using FNAF models and characters to tell their
nerdcore
own
songs
unique stories long
that I'm probably
before
gonna
the FNAF
start.
movie ever hit theaters, racking up literally billions of views. But what truly set FNAF apart were obviously the hidden details cluing fans into the bigger story. This, more than anything else, ignited the internet's passion like never before, giving rise to the theorist community. People like Dawko, Razbowski, 8-Bit Ryan, Rytoast, ID's Fantasy, Hyper.
ID's Fantasy gets a shout out. She was in the Final Theory video, and I couldn't remember her name. I reacted to her stuff before,
the first
which
thing
is
that actually had
awesome.
us creating lore theories. That was always just part of the channel's DNA. But before FNAF, we were coming up with lore theories for franchises where the story was basically well known. Whether or not Majora's Mask is an allegory for grieving, you get the story of a moon crashing down. Regardless of whether
never
Peach is Rosalina's
played Zelda. I know
mom,
nothing
you get
about
the
Zelda.
basic premise of Mario Galaxy.
Haven't played a
Humans
Mario game
certainly
outside
might
Mario
be
Kart.
Pokemon, that's not really affecting anyone's journey to become a league champ. But FNAF was different. It showed that games could be built off of withholding the lore and forcing the fanbase to solve it. By leaving the door open and never confirming anything, Scott allowed YouTubers, Redditors, and just general fans to continually assess and reassess the lore, find new directions, new hot takes. And that means that we're
They
still
are all
theorizing about it
robots.
to this very day. Can it be frustrating? Absolutely. Heck, maybe now that I'm retiring from the channel, I can track Scott down and get some answers out of him. But it's also
Well,
entertaining. And the success
isn't that
of this
some
theory-based
foreshadowing?
model on YouTube has carried over into the mainstream, where now almost every game and movie release is designed with theory crafting in mind. While it's impossible
Easter
to calculate
eggs
the
and
full
stuff
scope
like
of
that.
FNAF on YouTube, I was able to find that there are 106 videos with more than 10 million views each. Together, they total roughly 5.4 billion views on just their very own. And if we assume that they're getting the standard gaming CPM on YouTube, which is about $4.55, that then's
Wow.
a total earning across all of those videos of $24,570,000 in ad revenue. Markiplier's literally gone on record to say that the house that he lives in is the house that FNAF paid for.
Aw.
And he's joked on his Distractable podcast about how lucrative FNAF's been for him.
Let's go into a fan favorite here. Five Nights at Freddy's.
Boo. So
Matt
there's two
or
ways I
Markiplier
could
seems
look at
really
this,
humble.
Right. I could look at it from the game purely by itself, or I could look at it at the dividends it is paying out for me.
Because I think he's like, yeah, I shouldn't make the
And
amount of
that's put
money
him in a
that
position to
he
pursue
does,
bigger and
or like he
loftier
said
projects
that.
like the With Markiplier series, and now his movie Iron Lung. One half of the Living Tombstone, Sam Haft, is now writing songs for internet sensations like Has Been Hotel. YouTubers
Really?
like FNAF and Rytos,
Has
they've
Been
been
Hotel
able to go
mentioned?
full time with YouTube, all thanks to FNAF. And heck, look at us. Because of FNAF, we've thrived. We've been able to grow our
Episode
team,
5
give
should
jobs
went
to
live on
dozens of people.
Sunday.
Perhaps best
It
of all,
just
we've
got
carved out
released
our
from
own
copyright.
platform that allows us to turn the spotlight onto a next generation of creatives, to make us tastemakers in the space that are able to pay it forward, to make you aware of projects that you should be playing and watching, from Cooking Companions to The Man in the Suit to Shipwrecked 64, Welcome Home, Mandela Catalog, Walton Pines. The list goes on and
Mandela
on.
Catalog.
In short, FNAF created an
feel like my
ecosystem where
girlfriend's
new
little
IPs
sister,
could thrive.
or
A
little
virtuous
brother. Why
cycle
did I
that
say
benefited
sister?
itself,
What?
to be sure, but also had a
Let's
halo
talk
effect
about that.
on dozens of other franchises looking to get attention. And all of this is without even mentioning other trickle-down effects. Our large platform
Charity
allowed us
events.
to run charity events like St. Jude, paying that blessing forward to help doctors and hospitals working on treatments for childhood cancer, where of course Scott himself was a sizable and direct contributor year
Yeah.
after year. There were also dozens of other charity events coming from creators like Dawko, Markiplier, Jacksepticeye, Rye Toast, John FNAF. Not only have these events been able to raise tens of millions of dollars for various organizations looking to do good work in the world, hopefully those events in turn inspired others, you
Yeah.
out in the audience or other creators, to adopt a
I
spirit of generosity
actually-
and giving in their own lives.
my
So yeah,
nostalgic
it all
videos,
comes down to this one decision.
some of those,
One guy who,
go
in
to
the face of
charity.
adversity and criticism, chose not to give up. That is the millions of people and billions of dollars affected by that one Spoopy Bear game. Thank you, Scott. Thank you for all of that. And while all of this is
I wonder if
cool
Scott
and
commented on
impressive and
this.
inspirational, it's also overwhelming, right? You look at the impact that one decision like this can have, and you feel like you can never live up. I know
Over
that's
the course
how
of,
I
like,
feel sometimes. But remember, it's all
10
about
years.
small decisions making a domino effect. Just being kind to someone else, saying something nice, holding a door, listening to someone's problems, making them laugh. All of those are seemingly small things that can make a massive difference in the way
Yep.
someone's day
That's
goes.
why I
And that,
don't
to
miss
me,
uploads.
has always been the power of these
Even
channels.
though I
They're a
had one
place
of the
to
worst
learn a
days
little
ever
something,
on
a place to
Thursday.
brighten your day in some small
Still
way, which then you can pay forward
recorded
to other
videos
people
with
in your
Kirby
life.
and
that positivity
edited a bunch of
spreads,
videos,
it
so I wouldn't miss an
spreads
upload
and
because somebody
creates
might have had a
massive
worse day than I
change.
did.
That to me, honestly, is the hardest thing about leaving these channels, losing that chance to be a force of just a little bit of good in your life. But you know what? I'm not done yet. I'll see you one last time next week,
The final
March
period,
9th
yeah,
at 2 p.m.
which
Eastern, 11 a.m.
last
Pacific,
Wednesday's
as
video.
I celebrate with you one final time.
And
as a
patrons will
fierce
get
community.
all the
Till
endings.
then,
Well, I just
as
reacted to that
always,
video
remember,
before
it's
this
all
one,
just a
but
theory.
it'll go live tomorrow.
Theory.
Patrons will get it today.
Thanks for watching.
Where's MatPat.com? Oh, he already talked about that. Okay. Why is he hiding? A fragment memory help wanted to do. Yeah. They just hiding behind the couch. It was this whole thing. The way that he stepped out of the limelight and how he's walked away from all of this. Not even walked away. He's just got out of the spotlight. Like, he's literally now behind the scenes. Like, he's still a part of the team. Like, he's still involved. He's not gone. But the way he's handled it has been so well done. It honestly should be documented that this is how maybe YouTubers should retire or step back. Like, like, this is how you do it. Like, there's no controversy. There's no, like, there's no underlying reason other than, like, personal reasons and, where he's at in his life. And the way he stepped back should honestly be studied because of how well it was. I wonder how many people were involved in the plan if Matt did himself. Matt is a very intelligent person. I believe he got a scholarship to Duke, which is a very hard school to get into as a North Carolina resident. I'm well aware. So, yeah, I just cannot believe how well he has you know, stepped away and built everything that he has. So I look forward to probably getting back to the Minecraft game theory videos as I'm going through them, and maybe I'm going to step into Poppy Playtime or Vending the Ink Machine videos or stuff like that, because I know nothing about those games. So will that be entertaining? Also, the FNAF Nerdcore songs playlist made by Broccoli Ben. I have that saved. I'm probably going to start that at some point, so definitely going to look out for that. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. I hope I made it a tiny little bit better. But until next video, take care and keep the music.
We were playing